So glad that you guys are here with us today for another Rock Harbor service online. Travis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today. Hopefully
Yes.
you guys are doing well.
Yes.
Lene got me a gift. What kind
That's
of friend
not true.
is she?
You got me the gift, but I asked you to.
Yes. So if you remember last week, you can go back and watch this, but
Yeah.
we were disagreeing over this whole pumpkin spice type of thing.
Because pumpkin's the best, and it's fall almost.
Questionable. Dave Arthur did say fall doesn't start till this week,
It's
but it's a
coming.
bit chilly today.
Yes.
So.
Yet I still asked you to get a cold
Cold
beverage.
brew. Now, what is this?
This is a pumpkin cream cold brew.
Okay, and as you can see, I have not tried it. Here, I'll
No.
pour some out. No, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
It's just that the pumpkin cream part on the top is so good.
So you want
I
me to
hope
try this?
you will love it.
And we're
Yeah.
going to see if people watching
Yeah.
on the live stream are going to
Yeah.
side with me or side with you.
Sure. Or you could just even let us know in the chat, like, what's your favorite go-to fall beverage?
You want me to drink this?
Yeah. Ready?
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
go. Yeah. How do you feel? How do you feel? You went in for a second sip.
There's a lot of foam.
There's a lot of foam.
It
That's what's
wasn't.
delicious.
It wasn't awful.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just gonna let it simmer a little
it'll
bit.
kind of melt into there a little bit and mix in together.
Yeah, I might take all
Okay.
service
Yeah.
to drink this, but fortunately we're outside, so I can do
Okay.
that.
And it's okay if you don't like it. I know you don't love pumpkin things. I just feel like this is like gently pumpkin. It's not like overwhelming pumpkin.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Gentle
Okay.
pumpkin. Yes,
Okay.
I do like some pumpkin things.
Okay.
You know, with fall,
Sure.
carving pumpkins,
Okay.
throwing pumpkins, those type of things.
Okay.
Just never thought I'd drink it, but I'm glad we can agree.
Thank you for trying it. I remember you saying last week that you would try it for the sake of our friendship.
I would.
And
I
I
would.
really appreciate that.
It means that much to me. I'm gonna put it right down here, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
That's
okay.
fine. I'm going to just keep mine
Woo.
right here.
So what if we would have disagreed on that? What if I didn't come to your side?
You know, interesting question, because I feel pretty passionately that I love this.
Okay.
And so I would have been disappointed, just like I was disappointed that you don't like mint chocolate chip ice cream. I would have disagreed, but I would still rather be your friend about it, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I would hope so. And fortunately, for all of us, we're kind of talking about some of that stuff today. Not necessarily pumpkin spice, but the
Sure.
idea of disagreeing with people on something that maybe you feel passionately about. And so
Yeah.
to kind of unpack that, we're going to ask Keith, Pastor Keith Harrington, to come over here and just kind of break this down for us.
Oh, the twirl. Wow.
United, week 2. Yeah. What kind of are we chatting about as far as this idea of disagreeing and passion and those type of things?
Yeah, so the one of the questions I'm going to post in the message is, how do you passionately love someone whom you passionately disagree with on some of your most passionate topics or subjects? Because that's what's difficult, is because you're going, okay, I mean, talking about drinks, talking about sports teams or different stuff,
Yeah.
you can have fun. I mean, you can be cutting with it and enjoy some of that, or cunning, whatever.
Yeah.
But what I also know is, like, there's some very real things going on. And that's what we're going to talk about, because today's about walking in grace. And it's based out of Ephesians 1:7 that says that grace that we've been given, that's rooted and based in the measure of the gift of Christ's sacrifice for us. And so when you think of the grace that's been given, it's like, okay, we kind of use terms like, I'm done with them. Like, I'm totally done with them. Well, is that really
Fortunately,
Christ-like?
God's not said that to
Yeah,
us.
that hasn't
right?
been said of us. And
Yeah.
so we laugh about it. I think it's great to have fun about the humorous grace things, but also what about the more difficult, hard things that go on? So how do we really do that? And that's what I love about this United series. It's about, coming together in a divided world. And I won't take any more of you guys' time. I got to go get stretched.
Right? We're excited to hear
and
the
get
rest of
ready for So
I'll be ready. You
Yeah.
can call
It'll be a
me
good
up
day.
during the message. I'll come up there.
yeah, and if you're done with that, I wouldn't mind taking it.
I
So-
already promised it to someone else, but I might be sipping it all service. It wasn't as
wasn't
bad as I
bad.
thought it would
Okay.
be.
You're open.
So, yeah, for sure. So that's a great question, though. How do you, disagree with someone that feels very passionate about something else?
Yeah.
What would you do in that scenario?
Yeah, I think for me, I always have to remember that at the end of the day, I value the relationship more than the topic that we're disagreeing on. So remembering to have grace for the other person and still be loving within it, even as we disagree and have those hard conversations. What about
That's
you?
great. For me, I think this idea, and it might sound churchy or whatnot, but think about this idea that every single person that you lock eyes with matters to God.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then they should matter to us as well. And so really,
Absolutely.
Again, being mindful of that relationship, but being mindful of that person. That doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily downplay what I'm passionate about, but it means at the end of the day, I know that you matter to God. and so therefore you matter to me.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah.
that's so good.
So I'm excited to hear what Keith has to
I
say to
know.
really unpack this idea, especially
Yeah.
right now we're kicking off community groups.
Yes.
And there might be some disagreements when
Oh,
you get
there
together,
probably will be, because it's like humans interacting with other humans.
which is great.
It's
right?
awesome. But you're bound to come across probably some difficult moments
Mm-hmm.
within those groups. And it's important to learn these concepts of still loving each other and having grace and walking out those disagreements
Yep.
well.
Yeah. Well, I love what Keith said. He said that, obviously we've been given grace. And so
Yeah.
to share that, when we write people off or when we say like, oh, I'm done with them, God's never said that to us. He's never written us off or anything like that. So
Yeah.
very, very excited about this series and excited about this message
Me
today. So just going on from there, thinking about here in the last couple minutes, who might be watching, right? There's been
Right.
so many people over the past 6 months that have been watching online, tuning in online. What would you say to somebody behind the camera, behind the TV or the
Right.
iPhone?
Yeah. I think I would say to the parents out there who feel like you can't come because your kids are maybe wild and crazy and it'd be hard to kind of contain them here sitting on bleachers. And so you've been doing church at home and they've been watching kids online. You're doing an awesome job. Keep with it. I know it's hard. It's hard to be intentional to create that time. But thank you for still showing up and doing your best to try. Even if it's just in like tiny little snippets as kids are running around and screaming. I hope that you hear something from God today, that he would speak to you, even if it's in a simple thing. And it's okay that this doesn't look perfect. If it's messy and you're not just sitting down and everybody's like worshiping together, that's okay.
Yeah.
What about
No,
you?
Definitely. I would want to have a personal conversation with every one of you, whether if you are a young family or if you're a single person or, maybe someone who's got a little more experience in life. Just want to say thank you for tuning in and want to say that you belong here. And that's truly what we believe, one of our core values. You belong here. And that's something that I even share with students. Sometimes with students, you talked about it being messy, this idea that, they don't behave a certain way. Well, they don't behave a certain way because they don't believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
And they don't believe in Jesus because they don't feel like they belong. And so we want to get back to this idea that they belong here. And that is the same truth for you today. You belong here.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for being with us. What we're going to do is we're going to spend some time worshiping Jesus. And so go ahead and direct your attention to the stage. We'll see you.
Well, good morning. It is so great to have you here with us. Would you stand and sing with us? You can find the lyrics to these songs in the Rock Harbor app. Now the darkness fades into new beginnings as we lift our eyes to a hope beyond. Expectations declare the name of the Lord our God. We will not be moved when the earth gives away. For the risen one is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave. For the risen one is overcome. Now the silence breaks in the name of Jesus as the heavens cry, let the earth respond. All creation shouts with a voice of triumph to declare the reign of the Lord our God. We will not be moved when the earth gives way. For the risen one is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave. For the risen one is overcome. Let's sing this out together. Lift our voices. He shall reign. Come on. Shall reign forever, strongholds now surrender for the Lord. Our God has overcome. Who can be against us? Jesus, our when the earth gives away. For the risen one is overcome, and for every fear there's an empty grave. For the risen one is overcome. We will not be moved when the earth gives away. For the risen one is overcome, and for every fear there's an empty grave. For the risen one is overcome. Amen. All right, we're so glad you're here with us, joining us at church, out on the football field. We want to remind you that we do have lyrics available in the Rock Harbor app, so we'd love to hear you sing aloud with us this morning. So open up the Rock Harbor app, check out those lyrics, and let's continue to worship together.
I am holding on to faith, 'cause I know you'll make a way.
I love that lyric that says, "You were faithful then, and you'll be faithful now." That is who God is. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and he has always felt faithful. Amen. Well, welcome to Rock Harbor today. We are so glad that you're here. I'm Scott.
My name is Chris.
And we're glad that you're here. I want to share a couple things with you. This is your very first time here. Welcome to Rock Harbor. We would love to get to meet you, and the easiest way to do that is right over here to my left, your right. There's a big green tent. You can just swing by over there, and we have some information we'd love to give to you that shares a little bit more about what's happening at Rock Harbor. Also want to encourage you to head on over to our app and download that if you have not, or you can go to our website and find out more information anytime.
Well, Scott, it's pretty safe to say that 2020 didn't go like we planned, right?
Not at all.
And like a year ago, we didn't think we'd be having service on a football field?
Probably not.
Did you plan that?
No, I did not.
Okay.
No.
Well, the interesting thing about that is we have the opportunity to do baptisms on the football field. And I was thinking about that. And next week we are hosting a baptism right here on the stage. I was thinking about what Keith would maybe call it. So I was thinking, if you ever want to surf on the turf, you can get baptized on the.
There you go. I like that. Yeah.
Things like that.
That's good. That's
good.
good.
One, right?
Yeah, I think that's good.
I think Keith would approve of that one.
Okay.
But this is the cool thing for two reasons. One, I don't think anyone will ever be baptized on the turf in the history of Rock Harbor other than next weekend.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Right?
That's amazing.
And the second thing is a baptism is an outward sign of an inward change, which we think is really awesome. And I know we had river baptism just a few weeks ago, and it was a fantastic experience. And we normally do 2 a year, but just because of COVID and all the things, we've had audible a little bit. And so we're really excited, actually, for next week. So if that's you and you are interested in baptism,
wait,
you can
did
sign
you just
up
say
online.
audible on the football field?
Oh. Nice. Omaha.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
I'm not a big fan of. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Peyton Manning, best commercial guy ever. Anyways, yeah. So you can sign up online on the app, on anything like that. Let us know at the tent. We'd love to see a few of you guys baptized next week.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Also, we want to share with you some other news. Obviously, it's been great. Have you guys enjoyed meeting outdoors?
Yeah.
Okay. 4 of us have. That's cool. Good.
It's
good.
been really
so,
warm.
But we
today.
want to share with you that we have the opportunity to move back inside to Rocky on October the 4th. So just a couple of weeks away.
Yes.
That's in 2 Sundays. We get to move back inside, and it's going to look different, obviously, but we're really excited to move back in. And so some of the differences are going to be we're going to have different protocols in place, obviously, for safety, for cleaning kids' areas, things of that nature. We're going to have 4 services, our old service times, 8:15, 9:30, 10:45, noon. And you say, well, I can't remember those. That's okay, because it's going to look different when we all come. Because we need to register and actually save a seat before we come. We're going to only have about 250 people to sit in the auditorium. And so because of that, we're going to ask everyone to sign up before you come. And then also for your kiddos, that way we can plan for that and be ready. And so starting next week, you'll be able to register to come to one of the services. And we're just excited to have that opportunity. We also want to share that we're just 12 Sundays away as of after today to be moving into our permanent home over at 6437 Tree Haven Way. So we're obviously all anticipating that. I want to encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to drive by. It's starting to look a little bit different this week. The parking lot's going to be going in, and just watching little things happen little by little, it's really exciting. So
we were trying to beat Costco, but they're coming up quick.
They have a little different schedule than we had. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're excited for that. So I want to definitely welcome you here to Rock Harbor today. Thanks so much for being here. Let's continue to sing today.
Speak to me when the silence stills my voice. You understand me. You understand me. Come to me in the valley of unknowns. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I threw all my cares before you. Doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiating. bigger than I thought you were. Oh, yeah. I believe, but help my unbelief. You understand me. You understand me. Help me reach the faith that's underneath. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I threw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than. I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. Yeah, I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. Oh, I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. Throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. Yeah, you're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were.
We just thank you so much for this morning and for this time that we can gather not only in person here, but for everyone who's online, who's joining us. God, we just thank you for the chance to still be able to be in community with one another, for the opportunity to worship you and to praise you. And God, we just pray this morning over the words that you're going to bring through Keith, God, that it would change us, that it would move us, that it would have a lasting impact in our lives today. And we just give this time to you and we thank you. Amen. You can be seated.
I remember being nervous. I remember walking up to this booth with my family, and we were gathered. There's lots of other people that were there. I remember registering and getting kind of checked in, and I remember them saying, "How did you lose the loved one?" How was that loved one connected to you? And we said, "It's our son, it's our brother." And we went in and they gave us some beads, and there were the different color of beads that reflected the relationship you had with the loved one that you lost to suicide. And I remember walking up and the nervousness that I felt, and I remember getting orange beads, and they said, have you had any friends that have passed away by the same choice, by the same situation? I said, yeah, and so I got some of those beads as well. And our family went on this walk for suicide prevention and for awareness. I remember being nervous, and then before you know it, there was a gathering at Kleiner Park at the amphitheater, and there are thousands of us that are out there. I remember seeing even some of you out there to walk for prevention, to walk for awareness, to walk in grace with one another. I remember going in nervous and then walking away with nothing but encouragement. Encouragement because I walked with people like you, people like me who've been through hard times. The words of encouragement over a 1.5 mile walk that we went through that day, it filled us up because we found out we weren't alone. I don't know if you've ever done a walk for a cause. Have you ever done a walk where it stood for something, it represented something, it brought some kind of an awareness to something? To really walk in grace, to really walk in unity with one another, there's something about that. Remember a couple of years ago, got together with some local pastors, people in ministry, and we did a walk for racial reconciliation. And we started at one church downtown Boise and walked to another one, and over those couple of miles, the conversations we had, and we were in groups, and then we split to a different group, went to a different group, and each part of the walk, there were 4 different stations, took us mentally and emotionally through all that had been going on in our nation, not just recently at that time, even more so now, but even looking at the past and saying, okay, what do we do in a predominantly white community? What do we do about this? What awareness can we even understand? And as we were either communicated to or we shared in communication, it was crazy. Like there was even one station where we confessed sin to one another. Sometimes it was a sin of commission, like certain things that were done or certain things that have been said by specific individuals. And then some it was confessing sin of omission, not even realizing or understanding or not doing anything about some of the challenge that have been faced throughout our community or even in our world. And I remember walking out of that day and going, hey, to see so many different people from different, ethnicities, different cultures, different, races to come together to say, okay, how can we work together? See, when you think about unity and you think about walking in unity, you hear different terms out there. How do we come together in a divided world? Togetherness, what does that mean? Do we all have to agree on everything? Is that really the goal? Is uniformity the goal, that we'd all look exactly the same and robotically behave in the same manner? What does it mean to truly love? What does it mean to show grace? What do you do when you disagree with someone or your experience is different than someone's? Well, there's important things that we can do is listen, we can love, and then we can lead towards a new future, lead towards not conforming to the image of the world, but being transformed by the power of Jesus Christ, the power of the Holy Spirit, the power that can truly transform a heart and a life. When you think of that term walk, it's mentioned 247 times in the Bible. And many times they didn't have cars. So when it would say drive, they're not going to say drive, they're going to say walk because that's what they did, right? And so that word walk is in there a lot. Sometimes it's practical. Other times when you look at it, it's talking about to walk in relationship or to be active in something. When last week we talked about when God walked with him in the garden, there was a physical walking, but there was this actual him being in connection with them. Maybe you've heard the term or you've used that, hey, come take a walk with me. What takes place on a walk, the conversation that takes place on the walk, and simply just being with one another. I don't know if you've ever done you've been through one of those experiential kind of like monuments that you would see. Our family went to DC and I asked them to take a walk with me. It was one day in downtown in that whole National Mall area. And I said, let's take a walk with me. What they didn't realize, it was 12.4 miles we're gonna walk that day. I remember, and that was all like prior to 3 o'clock. It was about 3 o'clock when we decided, a little bit before that, we'd heard that there was a McDonald's and it's the cheapest place to eat there. So we went there with our family of 7. And I remember we went and got McDonald's around the backside there, and then we came out and we found out there was this IMAX at the National Museum of History. I don't know. All I know is I watched a movie. Okay, that's what I know. I went to an IMAX, watched a movie narrated by Robert Redford, and it was about 7 national parks. And I remember it was the greatest moment. Like I'm sitting there, the IMAX, everything's going on. I look over and I was like, we spent $11 for the kids to sleep. They're all sleeping. They're sleeping. They're exhausted. That was the come take a walk with dad, moment. That take a walk with me. When you go through those monuments and it's experiential and you walk through and you see the different stations, the different things that are going on. It was that summer that the Black History Museum opened. And I remember just absolutely loving it. Couldn't spend enough time learning with our family and having a family that's biracial, just the experience of being there and understanding more and learning a ton. I got the chance, we went to the Air Space Museum and they wanted to go on the expensive rides. And I was like, no, we're gonna learn about air and space, and you're not going on a ride, And I remember that's how we ended up at the movie, and that's where that went. But walking through and seeing the Holocaust Museum, and some of the kids were like, I don't know if this is the best thing for them, but explaining that and walking through and saying, I need to understand some of these things. And maybe you've heard that term, to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. The whole point behind that is to say, hey, if you walk a mile in someone else's shoes, our empathy should raise. Our compassion should raise. Like the way that we see someone, it should change because now we understand a little bit more about how they live. I remember a water jug that was in Ethiopia, and they were telling me they would carry 2 of these water jugs 3 miles. And I remember saying, I want to do that. I remember grabbing those water jugs and filling them all the way up. And I just walked maybe 200 yards with them and just thought, they walk how many miles? And these kids are 9 years old walking with this much weight. I remember putting my mind and my body, my physical body in that place at that refugee camp and going, they walked how far? And how old are these kids that carry these water jugs? If you know anything about carrying anything, right? You carry with one arm, you kind of walk like this, but you carry it with 2, it's kind of natural. I learned that by carrying feed buckets when we would feed our calves. When we feed our cows, and it's about 60 pounds in each arm, it didn't feel like 120 because you were balanced out. I remember the feeling of that and being on that refugee camp carrying those 5-gallon dirty old, I would never drink water out of that, to a well. I only ended up going about 200 yards, right? But walking in someone else's shoes, having the experience that someone else has had. See, it's easy to judge. I wrote this, before you judge their life, trudge their lane. When you see somebody that's different than you see somebody with a different experience than you, before you judge their life, trudge their lane. I use that word trudge because we don't know. And if it's just like, hey, walk a mile in their shoes is different than trudge. Because if you trudge, you understand the depths. You understand the rut. You understand the uneven ground. You understand the difficult things that they've walked through to better understand one another and to still live into grace. Because we could say it's easy to give grace to people who believe like us. It's easy to give grace to people who think like us. It's easier sometimes to give grace to people that are less than us. Because we can just simply move to that generous side of who we've been designed to be in the image of Jesus Christ, who gave everything for us. To be generous to somebody that has less than us, to be gracious to someone that you can just say, hey, you can compartmentalize it. But what about someone who's better off than you? What about someone who would be equal with you, but they differ than you? Equal by terms that we would define, not terms that God would define. Because God says we're all made in his image. Imago Dei, right? We all have worth. We all have value in his image. So how do we have grace for people who disagree with us? People who disagree with us maybe in regard to the pandemic, disagree with us in regard to politics, disagree with us in regard to the struggle that's going on with race within our nation. Like people maybe on the other side of that fence, and we say things, you know what? If they would just meet me in the middle, we could have a conversation, but they're unwilling to meet me in the middle. They're so very clearly over here. They're not willing to take a step forward so we can meet in the middle. And I know some of you think that's the Bible. That's Diamond Rio. That is not in the Bible to meet someone in the middle, okay? Meet in the middle beneath that old Georgia pine and I gain a lot of ground. they don't let me sing, so I just do it when I can, okay? We both give a little. That meet in the middle, that's not grace. Like, I'll give you grace when it's deserved. I'll give you meet me in the middle, like that's like, I have to earn my grace, you have to show that you're willing. That's not how we're supposed to operate. Grace, God's grace, it's not about meeting in the middle. Because if it was, then we would be good enough to maybe receive his grace. Or we've gotten some things kind of together. You know, Chris and Scott talked earlier about baptism. Maybe you've seen us talking about that. So many times when we're hearing people's journey to faith and hearing their baptism story or hearing how they came to Jesus Christ, but that day they celebrate what has taken place in their heart and life. How many times we hear, I was trying to put some things together. I was trying to be good enough. That's not how grace works. It's an undeserved, unmerited favor that is given to us. See, in Ephesians 4, as we've talked the last few weeks and will continue to talk, it says in verse number 1, I urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you've been called, with all humility and all gentleness and patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. And verse 7 is where we're really leaning in today. It says, but grace was given to each one of us according to the measure of Christ's gift. Grace was given to each one of us according to that measure. Like, what did Jesus do for us? He gave his life for us. The grace that was shown in that. So how do we come together in a divided world? It says here, grace. It's grace is what is going to be needed. So how is your walk? How is your talk? You're walking, you're talking, you're posting. How's your heart? If someone disagrees with us, often we say, we're done with them. I'm done with you. So how can we disagree politically, yet still be in unity? The truth is our unity is not based on our political stance. Our unity should be based on our biblical stance. As followers of Jesus, it shouldn't be on our politics. It should be on our biblical stance. That's what should unify us together, if that's the foundation for our faith. But then what do we see? One small comment on a post can create a huge fight or struggle within a home. One comment on something little can create a big problem in the relationships that we're in. See, we're not going to change the world by how quick-witted we are, how good we are at a comeback, how much we can really bring the heat on something. As followers of Jesus, and I'm not saying don't post, I'm not saying like don't share, I'm not saying like don't communicate something that you believe is truth. It's how we do that. For Jesus said, he will be known. And the love that we have for one another, this is the commandment that he's given to us, that we are to love each other. By this, all people will know that you're my disciples if you have love for one another. So a great question is how do you love people that you disagree with? How do you be in unity, right? How do we be united with people that we actually are on different sides of the field, different sides of the fence, different sides of something? Well, we have to be careful in trying to make a point in order to choose to make a difference. What if we said, hey, you know what? I'd rather make an eternal difference than a temporary point. An eternal difference cares about how we share what we would view as truth. Not can I do it, but how can I do that? I shared last week, and if you weren't here, I want to invite you to tune into last week's message as we really lean into what does it mean to be united. Last week was about walking in unity. This week is walking in grace. And if we're really going to be in unity with one another, then have you ever seen that argument take place, whether it be on a social media platform or two people debating each other, and in the middle of the debate, they go, whoa, 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 stop. You just convinced me. That was so good. I'm coming to your side of the fence. That was such a good insult. You know, the way that you set that fire, and now I am ready to join you. We don't see that, right? You see these different arguments take place, and all that, and you see the Instagram handle of, Jesus Princess 316, but she's just spewing venom. You look at her bio, it says like Jesus, coffee, Idaho, gossip, always being right, Sorry if you're like Jesus Princess 316, no offense, there probably actually is one out there, and that was just a random thing that I put together. But what does the way that we love Jesus, how does it flow into our heart, our life, and even in this season where things are volatile? There's lots of conversations that are going on. I'm not saying, Keith, it sounds like you're saying don't say anything about politics. Don't talk about politics. I'm not saying that. It's not can we talk about it, it's how do we talk about it. Do you guys remember times where you could have a conversation about it? You could actually talk about different views. You know what? Those days can still happen. You can still have a healthy conversation about politics. You can have a healthy conversation about social things that are going on, about policies that are happening. We can have conversations. What does Satan want? He wants confusion. He wants strife. He wants venom to be spewed, right? So how do we have passionate love on those things we are most passionate about, and people that are most passionately on the other side of it? How do you have passionate love for people you passionately disagree with on the most passionate topics or subjects? Well, we have to walk in grace. We have to walk with Jesus in order to lovingly talk with those who are different than us. So how do I stand up for something I believe is right? How do I stand up for justice with people that disagree with me? Well, I'm glad that you asked, because in Luke 10 and in John 8, it talks about two situations that I think apply. And I'm going to read and summarize a little bit in these passages. The first one's a parable. A question is asked to Jesus. Hey, you've told us the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God. And then you said to love your neighbor as yourself. So this one dude pipes up to justify himself. Well, who's my neighbor? You're talking about the people that live directly next to me? And Jesus replies and says this, Luke 10:29. Actually, now in verse 30, a man was going down to Jerusalem, to Jericho, and he fell among robbers and stripped him. They beat him, and then they left, leaving him half for dead. There was by chance a priest that was going down the road, and when he saw him, he passed to the other side. Then came a Levite. He did the same thing. But then a Samaritan came, and as he had journeyed where he had come where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. And knowing this person that was beaten on the side of the road was a Jewish person. Everyone knew who traveled in that area. It would have been a Jewish person going from Jerusalem to Jericho. And now this Samaritan, somebody on the other side of the fence, somebody that looked a little bit different, somebody who voted a little bit different, somebody who had a little bit different view, was from a different place, a different nation. The rival nation passes by, has compassion, goes to him, binds up his wounds, pours on oil and wine, which sounds like that was probably a good idea. It wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna toss some stuff, put some dirt on it. I don't think it was like kind of like when your mom would spray that stuff, like that Bactine stuff that would like literally start your arm on fire. It's not that. I think this was actually good practice back then. Then he sets him on his own animal. He brought him to an inn, takes care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, takes out money, gives it to the innkeeper, and says, take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay when I come back. And Jesus poses this question after telling this story. Which of these 3 do you think proved to be the neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? And the man said, the one who showed mercy. And Jesus said, go and do likewise. Somebody completely different. Somebody that would have voted differently. See, here's the thing. When we walk with God, it's easier for us to walk with grace. When we walk with God, it's easier. It's a heck of a lot easier to walk with grace in our life. How would he walk? What would he do? What did he do? Who did he get, thrown under the bus or the chariot, okay, or the mule or the donkey? Who did Jesus get, destroyed for hanging out with? People that didn't look and act like him. People that didn't look or seem religious, because Jesus was about a relationship. This Samaritan, if there was an invisible line that was there, this Samaritan crossed this invisible line to minister to someone that wouldn't vote, wouldn't look, wouldn't act like him. Are we willing to cross a line? What, to have a conversation, to serve somebody that's different than us? We're called to do the godly thing. We're called to do the grace thing. In John 8:3, another situation takes place. These scribes and Pharisees, verse number 3, brought a woman who'd been caught in adultery, placing her in their midst. And they said, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now, the law, Moses commanded us to stone this woman. What do you say?" And they said this to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. And Jesus bent down and wrote in the sand. He wrote in the ground with his finger. And they continued to ask him as he stood up, and he said to them, "Let him who is without sin be among you to be the first to throw the stone at her." Who hasn't sinned? If you haven't sinned ever, then go ahead and throw that first stone. Once more, he bent down and he wrote in the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older one. And Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. He stood up and he said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one." Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more." Could you imagine the humiliation of this woman? Imagine how she's feeling, being called out. It said in the very act of it. So I don't know what that means on how she was dressed. I don't know what that exactly means, but I know this, like humiliation. They had the right to stone her. That was the law. The law says if you're caught in that act, you can be stoned. So yeah, they were right. But were they right? Jesus says no. Even though, according to the law, you were right. It's important for us to know that sometimes, even though we can be justified in our argument, whatever that would be, justified in our response to that family member that said something or did something, and you're just ready to just let them have it. We may be justified. They may have very clearly been wrong. But it doesn't mean we have the right to publicly demean them. It doesn't mean it's the right thing to humiliate someone. It doesn't mean that we can use whatever words we would like to use because of what they've done. We're not justified to sin. We're not justified to have a vengeance, to be hateful in our actions. No, what did Jesus do? He used his words to protect her. He came in with grace. You know, the modern day stone, you know what it is? It's a phone. The modern day stone is a phone. We may say, I would never pick up a rock and chuck it at someone. I mean, I did when I was a kid because that was just kind of what we did. Now, how many of you guys had dirt clod fights? That's what you do when you live in Idaho or Kansas, right? It's like, what do? I don't know. Let's throw dirt at each other. That's in a hard substance and might have a rock inside. That's what you do. But to throw a stone at someone because they sin, no, what do? We pick up our phones. And you know that Proverbs says there's life and death in our tongue? Guess what? There's life and death in our thumbs as well. There's life and death in the things that we're going to easily reply to a comment, easily send a text, easily put together that email in all caps. We can easily hurt someone by the words that we say and the words that we type. You may say, you know what? I don't reply a lot like that. That's just not me. I'm like non-confrontational. Well, I have a question for you. Are you a screenshotter? You know there's the new iOS update, 14. You know you can program your phone. 2 clicks, watch this. I just did a screenshot. 2 pops on the back of your phone. How many of you guys knew that? I know it because I have a friend that watched 14 hours of videos, and he told me, and I just put it on my phone last night. 2 taps. You have to program it. You know, like say you like Facebook, like 2 taps. Facebook. Oh, cool, it's on Facebook. Oh, I just did another screenshot. I got like 7 now. That's going to be weird. 3 taps, Instagram. And then you're on Instagram. It's like 2, it's kind of cool. Anyways, I just sometimes once in a while get information and feel like I need to share it. It had nothing to do with God. Anything. It's probably had a lot less to do with God than anything else, okay? But I set it up so 2 taps is a screenshot. Because I'm always reading articles. I'm like, oh, that's good. Pop, 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 pop. You know, just rapid fire. Some of us, we screenshot and send it. And you would never think that that's gossip. It's information, right? No, it's gossip. Oh, I'd never reply with a text like that. Yeah, but would you screenshot and share it? Are you quick to gossip? Are you stirring up disunity by how we behave and act in those different ways? See, we've been called to living a great life of grace. Do you struggle in this area of a critical spirit? Do you struggle in this area of gossip? Do you struggle in an area of being judgmental and you pick up the phone or you pick up a stone and you're ready to judge someone else when we've been called to a higher level of grace? And what grace doesn't mean is Jesus just turns his back. Jesus doesn't address it. No. Publicly, he says, hey, cast the first stone if you're sinless. But then what does he do privately? He has a conversation with her and he says, there's a better way to hope. Go and sin no more. He didn't attack her publicly. It was like a conversation and a direct message. It's like a conversation saying, hey man, I wanted to talk to you about something. Hey, you posted this or you said this. No, grace looks a lot different than maybe what we would think. See, when we remember the amazing grace that God has shown towards us, then we should show this amazing grace to other people. When we remember amazing grace that has been bestowed upon us, then we can show his amazing grace to other people because we need it. We need amazing grace in our marriages. Our community group went through Reengage last month, and this, I'll always promote Reengage because I believe it. You're going to get tired of it, okay? It's always Reengage, take a first step at Rock Harbor. You're going to hear the same things. Get in a community group. If thou shalt not get in one, then thou shalt not say that Rock Harbor is not meeting my needs. Guess why? You have to get in a group for us to know about the needs that you have. We need people to step into groups. And guess what? Reengage, as we stepped into that, you know what it meant? Me drawing a circle around myself and working on me. Well, guess what? When you recognize your shortcomings, you have a lot more grace towards someone else's. We need grace in our friendships. We need grace in our workplaces. You need grace with your annoying brother that cancels all the time on everything. You need that grace. You know the one that told you that this was going to happen, and then you get that text message, oh, we're not going to be able to make it. And you're like, I know you weren't going to be able to make it. You were supposed to bring the flipping turkey. And we shouldn't be surprised that that you didn't make it. Those are what I'm talking about. Not just all the political posts. I'm talking about every response is supposed to be gracious. But you know what some of us need? We need a PR person. You know what PR is? Public relations. It is helping a business or individual cultivate a positive reputation with the public. Some of you really need one. Some of us need it worse than others. It is this practice of deliberately managing the release and the spread of information between an individual or an organization and the public. And guess what? You have a PR department. It's the Bible. The Bible is as followers of Jesus, our PR department. There's a faithful filter. Romans 12. Faithful filter, verse 9 through 21. I'm not going to read all of it right now. It'll take you 74 seconds to read it. But say you're going to send that text. Say you're ready to reply to that comment. You're ready to just set it straight because your brother needs to know. Your sister needs to know. That friend that is, they need to know. And you've had it. Take 74 seconds or go, 2 minutes, 120 seconds. Slow it down a little. Read every verse well. Romans 12, 9 through 21, it'll set us straight. Here's a piece of it. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. And if possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. For by doing so, you will heap burning coals on his head. And that's not like, I want to burn coals upon his forehead. I want to give him boils about his face and neck. No, it's not what it's saying. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. You know, one of the greatest marks of a follower of Jesus is grace. And if you were put on trial for being a follower of Jesus, would there be enough evidence to convict you? To convict you of being a gracious follower of him? Is there enough evidence of grace in your life? Because grace is a significant mark of somebody who's submitted to something so much greater than a political party, so much greater than being righteously right. No, grace says, I couldn't and he did. I didn't deserve, but he did. I'm broken, but he made me new. I was dead, but he made me alive. Grace says, I'm not who I once was, but I've been made new in him. Grace says, you're different than me, but I love you like Christ. Grace says, we don't have to agree on everything, but grace also says we have a responsibility to love one another in the same measure that the gift that Christ has given us. And that is great. Let's walk in grace. Would you bow with me? My prayer today is simply just reading a scripture. Ephesians 4. God, help us to let no corrupting talk come out of our mouth, but only such is good for the building up as it fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. Do not let us grieve the Holy Spirit of God, to whom we've been sealed for the day of redemption. God, let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from us, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave us. God, help us to walk in your grace. Amen. Maybe today or recently you made a decision for Jesus Christ, and maybe it had to do with, something that was shared today. Maybe it's saying, hey, you know what? I need his grace. Whether you're watching online, there's a link there. If you're here in person on our app, there's an opportunity for you to take your next step. Hey, I began a relationship with Jesus Christ. Maybe it's to say, I want to take that step of baptism. Next week, surf and turf, right? They said, hey, surfing and turfing, whatever. It's an opportunity to go public with the decision we've made in our relationship with him. Maybe say, I need to take that step of re-engage. I need to draw a circle around myself. Yeah, she needs help or he needs help, but I need to take that step in my relationship with the person that God has set apart for me, and I need to work on that. Maybe say, I need to get in a group. You can stop by the tent for any of those things. Maybe you're saying, I need to have a conversation with somebody about a relationship with Jesus Christ. We'd love to see you at the tent. We'd love to see you take that step by marking, whether it's the online form or it's on the app. But today is the day to walk in grace, and walking means taking a step. What is your step today? Would you please stand with us as we close in song together?
Let the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. You are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, yes, you are good. You're good.
You're never gonna let me down. 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 You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down.
Amen. Thank you guys so much for singing with us today. Whether you're online or you're here in person, thank you for choosing to spend your day with us. We love you all so much. Hope you have a great week. And again, we are going to dismiss from the outside in. There are ushers that are going to help kind of lead the way, and we're going to dismiss row by row. So please use the exit closest to you and have a really great Sunday.